Hey, welcome back to the Rhetoric Warriors podcast. Man, we are traveling the world to, I don't know, we're kind of de-sharking the ocean of rhetoric. We're taking the bad people out, putting them in the wood chipper of rhetorical analysis. That's the idea anyway. I'm Dr. Dan French, rhetorician, late night comedy writer, founder of Rhetoric Warriors. Podcast does three things. We talk to comedians about their careers and their politics, and I let them do uncensored comedy on here, which has been super fun. I also convert conservatives because the right concerns me. I think they're a little off the path. And I talk to persuasion pros and rhetoricians because I like it. That's what I do. Today is another episode of Persuasion Pros and kind of Rhetorician Files. She's both, and she's comedy. Like she's triple, I don't know, quadruple threat. So my guest today has a rhetoric and writing degree from UT Austin, English. I did comm studies speech. She did English. Very cool stuff. She's a full-time persuasion industry professional, communications manager out there in the Bay Area. I know her from stand-up. She took a stand-up class from me years ago, and we'll talk about that. I have a great story about how she traumatized my kids with one of her bits. And I think she's a social issue person. She's, young and millennial-ish, and, and the best thing, she's not a middle-aged white guy. And I've had 53 guests, I think, so far, and 42 have been middle-aged white guys. I think because I don't know, that's what I grew up with. That's the people who say yes to me. So she's going to add some flavor and some style and some difference, and that's super cool. That's what she does. Devonya Batiste.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Dr. Dan French. Really appreciate that. I mean, hey, you pretty much ran the gamut of like presidents, right? You got to get through a whole bunch of white dudes, and then you're like,
Right?
okay, let me add a little bit of flavor, a little bit of spice up in this.
How does that not concern anybody when they look on the wall and they see nothing but white dudes?
Hey, look, it's like you've had a mayonnaise sandwich your whole life. Someone throws in mustard, you're like, oh shit. Okay, I get it now. Maybe I could have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So, until it's brought to your attention, you'd be surprised all of the nuanced systemic issues that people don't even realize,
Yeah,
but until
it's
it
insane.
affects
Like
them.
even I mean, my background, I'm from Kentucky, right? And I grew up in a
Yeah.
very old school, traditional redneck working class culture. And then I went to grad school and went into cultural studies. And, I was just fascinated with all that stuff because I'd never been exposed to any of that type of intellectual approach to anything. And
Yeah.
it just like instantly, like, oh my God, there's all this great thinking going on in the world from all these different cultural perspectives. It's awesome. But
Yeah.
other people are like, oh, there's all this other shit in the world coming at me and it's terrible. I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, oh, there's a train going by. All right, sorry about that.
That's all right. We can't
Live
hear it.
near the
You're all good.
tracks in the Bay Area. I'm on the right side of the tracks. That's what happens when you work in corporate tech America. But still,
Yeah,
still
run your
getting
background
ran.
a little bit. Orient
Yeah,
everybody
yeah.
to Devonya Batiste. By the way, best name ever. Who named you?
Thank you, thank you. My parents did. They were being cute with it. Little do they know, my name is actually Gaelic. We are not Gaelic at all. There is no, there's no even teeny bit of
No
Gaelic
Black
in it.
Irish.
They were just being black and being like, "Yeah, this shit's fire," and I was like, "Okay, that's cool."
Yeah, they did a
Funnily
good job.
enough, yeah, funnily enough, we found out that my grandfather, a couple of years ago, we did the ancestor test and stuff. He's 13% Irish, and I'm engaged to an Irish guy. So it's like I'm finally
Oh, it's all
divine.
in
It's all
there.
making sense. It's all
DNA's
making
pulling you
sense.
back.
But yeah, so I mean, like you said, I went to UT, have a degree in rhetoric and
Yeah, tell me
writing.
about that. What was that like in the English department, like from a rhetoric degree? Because I was in the speech department. Were you guys just like hardcore writers, or was it just out in the world? Like rhetoric gets out and messes with all the messaging in the world.
Oh yeah, I mean, one of the things that I really learned from it was rhetoric is everything, right? I mean, it's how you dress, you're conveying a message to people, you're trying to persuade people to believe something that you want them to believe about yourself. It is how you talk, the kinds of words that you're using, code switching, right? Like me being a Black American, I code switch often. That is a form of rhetoric and who I'm trying to appeal to and let them know, that I'm a part of their community. And so the rhetoric class, the programming at UT is fascinating because you had an opportunity to really choose your own path. Like, what kind of rhetorician did you want to be? And so when I first started getting into it, I said, okay, I love rhetoric, but I really only want to use it for good. And so I kind of careened my pathway into public relations, right? And actually took a rhetoric of laughter class, which I think you would have really enjoyed.
Nice. All right.
And I have a book from that still that I read called Ha. And it's amazing. It talks about kind of what makes you laugh and why people don't laugh at certain things. And I believe I was finishing that class when I started doing your class, which was fantastic. Highly recommend to anyone, Dr. French's comedian class, and just like, solidifying that your jokes, they may not land with people, but you got to drive them home no matter what, right? I mean, that's what it is. Don't pass them up, like drive them home. And so it was fascinating. So I took a lot of classes that allowed for me to be a public relations professional. I mean, the rhetoric degree at UT leads you to three paths, right? You can either be a lawyer, and I was like, no, no thanks. You can either do technical writing, and I was like,
Yeah, it's
or public
horrible.
relations. And I was like, okay, I can do public relations for what I feel are, are important missions, issues, stuff like that. So after I graduated, I went on and became a part of a PR firm, which is fine if you like getting fucked in the ass all day, every day from different dicks. Like it's like you've got different clients, so it's different sizes,
Oh,
different
dude.
lengths. I mean,
Marketing,
it's a
corporate.
like you're like what, huh? Like I can't. I've only got like two hands and one mouth. I don't have a lot to work with, right? I was like, I
Yeah, you
just,
can't be a one woman orgy, right? You can't. Come on.
I mean, I've tried, but but you can't, like, you're gonna get so sticky to a point where you're like, okay, I
Oh,
I,
come
I
on.
got to get out of this,
Really,
right?
guys? Still, come on.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
get it.
So I left being in a PR firm and went into corporate America. So it was only one dick that I'm getting fucked with, just one. And I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. The hours are long still. It causes a lot of chafing emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually.
But other than that, it's
Yeah, but
fine. But I
other
get
than
a
that, I
paycheck.
mean, yeah, hey, look, I'm a classic millennial, right? I'm very much so like anti-capitalist, but I got to get that bag. Like I'm, I'm trying to live. Like I can't.
There's no other way to go through
There's no other
America.
way. There's no
Sorry.
other way.
They block
Like,
all the paths. The only thing that opens them up is money.
yeah, exactly. Like I've always been personally very fascinated, very jealous, envious, really, of just the strength, of the abilities, and just the skills of prostitutes, because I mean, they get paid for something that I enjoy. And I mean, they get paid like big bucks. And I'm like, fuck, man, I can't do my makeup that well. My hair is always kind of a mess. Like, I got to shave everywhere. Are you kidding me? Like,
There's a lot to
I'm a
that
fucking
work. It's
bushwhacker. I
not, you don't
can't do
just
that
roll out
every
of bed as a prostitute.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, right? Like, but I can do that in corporate America and just throw on a little fucking headscarf, and they're just gonna think I'm like really diverse. Like,
Right.
nah, prostitutes,
Right.
like
Yeah, you
all,
can't just in process. Yeah, you can't just roll out of bed before you roll
no.
into bed.
Oh, absolutely not. Like, they got their shit on point, the high heels they wear, or like porn stars. It's just like, damn, man. If only I had the gumption. If only I had the gumption, I'd be doing that instead of, sucking the proverbial capitalist teat.
Yeah. Well, it's selling your body or selling your mind, right? Just what do you want to sell?
Exactly. Are
You
you
know?
kidding me? Like, it's like, they say 9 to 5. It's not 9 to 5. And that shit definitely hasn't been 9 to 5 since the whole pandemic. You kidding me? I mean, it's honestly, it's been pretty fucked up. Like a lot of people my age that are, in corporate America, specifically in tech, they're hurting real bad, honestly. The mental health problem is it's um it's unfortunate. I mean, I hear every day, whether it's from, coworkers or people like me, just how tired they are. And I just totally understand where we're coming from because it's hard to draw a line. Many of us are still struggling with our student debt or any other debt that we've accrued. So we have a hard time saying no to bosses because if we say no, I mean, you say no to John in a hotel, he might slap you around and shit. You say no in a company, they'll fire your ass. And I'd rather honestly someone just whoop my ass than get fired. Like like in the
Yeah,
job
John
market.
can't fire you from prostitution, right?
Yeah, I mean,
You know.
I could walk away with one less sore hole and be like, yeah, I'll go get a massage. You get
Yeah,
fired, you lose your benefits.
it's
It's fucked
weird though.
up.
It's like my daughter is 21, my son's
Mm.
18, and my son's out he's got his own company now. He like just literally launched out of high school into a business.
Hmm.
My daughter's finishing up college.
Congratulations to him.
Yeah, and he's doing great. But like I look at the difference in the way that he was offered a full-time job. He does video editing for games
Mm.
for an online multiplayer game universe. And they love what he does. And the mothership company's like, we want to hire you full time. And he's telling me, he's like, they want me to be there like 3 hours a day. Like I have to be on call. And then I'm like, yeah, I get it. I said, but watching this orientation to work versus like my dad's generation, because I was sort of in the middle, like they just went dead inside to handle it, you know? Like it was no
Yes.
better back then. Like he hated his job in a lot of ways too, but they didn't expect to not be dead inside. But my kids are like, I'm not accepting an inner death in return for work.
I love that about Gen Z. Like every day when I log on to work and I plaster my smile and I'm like, hi everyone, how's it going? Like slowly but surely, I am like beating my own insides. I am ending it. And Gen Z, like I have a niece who's, in high school now. And so I think she's part of the Gen Z crowd. I just appreciate the shit out of them. I know that typically, intergenerationally, you've got generations shitting on the one underneath and the one above. Gen X, I don't blame them. Like, they kind of got in the weird mix of like, they're like in a weird shit sandwich, where the two breads are actually the shit and the inside is like, salami. Like, you got boomers shitting on the millennials, you got millennials shitting upwards, like anti-diarrhea, and the Gen X's are just like, Gen Z, meanwhile, they're just a toilet. They're the function. They're like, yo, like we gotta change how things work around here. You gotta fix this plumbing because otherwise I ain't gonna work. I ain't gonna do this shit. And I mad respect. Mad respect. Like I can't wait to get to a point where managerially, so I can hire a lot of young people. I think that a there are definitely a lot of age discrepancies and discrimination, both with senior people and also younger people, right? It's like, oh, they don't know that much, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man, in marketing and PR, these kids, they are making political statements that go viral on TikTok. Like, that's amazing. If you can tap into that, if you can actually get those kinds of kids, those kind of people, honestly, it's beautiful. Like shit, the millennials, we were just making weird ass cat videos on YouTube, and now we have 100 cats. I got
Yeah,
I
it
got rid of
is.
99 of mine. I have one still, and she's an angry black pussy. I don't know where she is, so if she
Yeah,
pops up.
it's fun to watch. Like my son knows how to do all that stuff, and he knows how to capitalize it.
Mhm.
Like he was getting, he gets paid a sponsorship. He gets paid. He makes money with his YouTube. Like he knows how to actually capitalize that stuff. And I think that's the difference of these guys coming up. They've seen, people flame up and they understand a lot of the mechanisms inside of it. But he's always attaching it back to cash. He's like, yeah, I
Mhm.
don't want to do this if I'm not going to make money with it, because that money's going to allow me to do what I want instead of having to deal with, again, the
Yeah.
older generation telling him to work. It's like, eh.
Yeah. I mean, and to me, I find that utterly fantastic. Like, so an example I've seen of this is, so at my job, I am also a co-chair for this thing called an employee resource group. We have many of them, but my employee resource group is specifically for Black, African American, and Hispanic, Latinx employees. Yeah, that should tell you how many we have. We
Did it
had to just
combine two
bundle it all
groups?
into one. Hey, all of you brown minorities, just
You're the
just what?
same
Yeah,
kind of. Yeah, it's a
yeah.
like,
I
it-
mean, you guys hang out in the same neighborhoods, right?
right.
So, anyways, during Black History Month, we had two speakers. One of them was and not an older lady, but past in middle age. She had been a CEO, that sort of thing. And she was like, I just don't believe in work life balance. Like I don't like that statement because there's no such thing as work life balance. You just prioritize when you need to prioritize. I was like, okay. Then we had another dude who was a millennial, and he, worked for a tech company, and he, like, as part of their diversity inclusion, and he came with the energy. He was like, yo, get paid for your time. I was like, yes. I was like, I, all of us were just like, abso-fucking-lutely, but you're exactly right. It's that mindset. And I, look, salary, yeah, it's got me by the ovaries, but it's just astounding what can happen to you in that situation where work and home just, they don't separate. And I hate to say
Yeah.
it, but in those times, it's like, damn, I miss waiting tables. Like I was in the service industry for a long time, like almost a decade. I working from um fast food, and then in the last 5 years of me working, I was, waiting tables and bartending downtown in Austin. And you know, when you were done with work, that was it.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, when I clocked off, man, I would literally be clocking out and be ringing up like a shot and a beer at the same time. I'm looking at my boss like, bitch, don't you dare ask me to come on. 'Cause I'm not even like legally able to be working right now. So
Well, and
yeah,
like you said, the mental health issue of not having separation in your worlds, exhaustion, never, no recovery, space from exhaustion. Like I hated being a professor. Like it was kind of the same thing. Like you're servicing 300 kids, and if you're doing it right, you have some awareness of them, right? And there's some responsibility to them. But like stand up, like when you're traveling and doing stand up, you just have to be at the show at 7:45. And if you're the headliner, 8:45, because there's 45 minutes of other comics. So get in at like 8:30, 8:35, and you're fine.
yeah,
Do your 2 hours, go home, go back to the hotel room, and it's so clean. And you can do whatever you want all day long.
yeah,
All day long.
yeah. I mean, it's work. Like you spend some time writing your sets, practicing them, all of that.
But that's
Um,
fun. It's like,
exactly. It's fun, and it has like a timeline. Like when you're done with it, you're done. You can even say, you know what, I'm not going to practice today because my set isn't until whatever, right? I mean, it's this really weird. We stopped having this kind of end of the workday as soon as the internet really, really took off. Because now you've got emails, now you've got
yeah,
smartphones and all
work
of that. So
follows you,
your
man.
bosses know, yeah, your bosses know they could reach you whenever. However, And never mind the fact that I'm in PR, the 24-hour news cycle. Why the hell did I do this? I have no idea. I mean, look, to be honest.
Well, you have the skills, and
Yeah.
the culture will pay for those skills. That's it. That's the whole explanation. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
can write, I can communicate, I can think like this. Oh, look at this. They pay for this. I guess I'll go do that.
Exactly. And I mean, I you know, for people who don't typically, hang out with black people, I have a very good way of making older corporate white men feel comfortable. Like like me and
What's
you are
that?
tight because you're
What do you
just tight.
do?
Like you've always been cool. But I
I've
mean,
hung around stand up and entertainment, like, and
yeah,
even academics. It's so interpenetrated. I'm very comfortable across cultures. And I also know I don't know shit about, like, somebody will come in from, Thailand or something, and I'll be like, well, I don't know shit about Thailand. So I've got some skills to be able to, not try to impose my thoughts into something where I'm completely ignorant, which is basically all you really need to go across cultures is a little
exactly.
bit of humility,
Well, yes, that is true. Um, and there is such a funny kind of fine line that many workers of color in the corporate world have to kind of navigate because more often than not, we're actually asked to do emotionally performative things
Right.
that has nothing to do with our job,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And so it can be very taxing. It can be emotionally taxing for me to have to explain why this sentencing or this protest or, or this murder of another black body is problematic. Or even not, I got to show up to work the next day. I have to show up to work the next day kind of just being like, "Oh, well, whatever. Hey, everyone." Like, fucking Mickey Mouse and shit. Um when that's actually it's
Mickey
exhausting.
Mouse.
Yeah. And
Because Mickey
so
Mouse was good about, cops shooting black people. Like, Mickey Mouse
oh
would be like,
yeah,
oh
no,
yeah,
I mean Mickey's great.
it's the most, like, Walt Disney, the whole Disney World empire is the closest thing I always looked at and, like, that seems fascist. Like, the
No,
stuff they
yeah,
make and everything else, it seems like it was organized like as a Nazi entity.
it definitely was. Like, I mean, there's so much
He even got a
racism
little mustache,
that happens. Yeah, I
right?
mean, look at yeah,
Walt even had a little mustache.
Walt was walking around fucking telling people this is the happiest place on earth, but on the inside, he was like, this is the happiest, whitest place on earth. I mean,
Right?
every single time a black person probably steps foot on the ground, he's like flipping over in his grave, like fast enough to fucking fuel a nuclear power plant.
I think there was a little bit. I did a little research on him once, and I think there was kind of a, like, he did some support, of kind of the Nazi groups and some of
Oh
that.
yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
don't want to slam the guy. He's dead. Who cares? He's got a
Yeah.
frozen head somewhere. But they there's a little bit of that, but it just has that feeling. Maybe because it's so totalitarian. Like, the experience is all controlled. You're in lines. You do this. You don't do that. It's a little
Oh
weird.
yeah. Yeah. I
Weird.
mean, you're pretty much like lining up for a camp where you get fat and happy and then you leave depressed and you're like, "Wait, maybe if I just go one more time. Maybe if I just go one more time I'll be happy for the rest of my life." Like it's
Yeah.
a whole setup. The whole thing is
Right.
a
Why
setup.
is that the happiest place on earth? You're implying that my life out here is unhappy and it sucks. But if I
Yeah.
pay you, I'll get a little bit of the happiness that you stole from the rest of the world, and suck down into this space with its castles and all its crazy characters.
Well maybe that's what happened. Maybe somehow or another he's like sapping our energy and like pumping it into the
He's
air around
taking all
his
the happy
yeah, he's taking
and
all of
reselling
that.
it to us. That
Fucking knew
son
it.
of a bitch.
I knew these antidepressants were kind of fishy.
They probably have little mermaids on them and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, they got me talking like Mickey, like, ho, kids, ho,
See,
I
my
love
thing,
corporate
my thing going
America.
across like organizations and class lines, like is class. Like I came from the working class, so I'm much more brutal in my language, my attitudes, and things like that than people from middle class and upper class. And I've run into this a lot in academics.
Mm,
But like class, people can't see. I mean, race and stuff, people can see. Gender, they can see. The fact that you dress differently, they can see. Like with me, like I had a guy I was doing consulting for once, and I wear a black t-shirt and jeans. I don't care where I'm at. I don't care what my
this is
job.
true.
That's
If I saw you in anything else, I'd start kind of freaking out.
that's my thing. I don't like anything else. I don't like suits. I don't like ties. It's all upper culture bullshit. It's
Yep.
uncomfortable. And so this guy was like, I came in like the second time I worked with him doing some consulting, and I had my black t-shirt on. He goes, "Hey, thanks for getting dressed up." I'm like, "Well, why are you wearing that stupid shirt in the middle of the day when nobody's coming in here but me? You got a tie on, starched shirt. What the fuck's wrong with you?" At least the pandemic has lowered our requirements for how people dress at work.
Oh, 100%. Like sometimes I'll just have just a shirt on and then like I just took the robe just and put it around my lap. I mean, I'm not going to stand up. Are you kidding me? No one sees the bottom half of this. Like it's fine. Like
So I
it's
could I could always move to organizations, white guy, masculine, people at least thought they knew that how to categorize that, right?
sure.
Then they'd talk to me, and I was also a comedian, so I don't shut that off very well.
Oh yeah.
And working class. So suddenly like they're hearing me say fuck and shit like that. And they're like, you're breaking the world. But I didn't have to deal with like stuff like I said, like gender and race and stuff like that, which is, it's just a beacon for everybody.
Ugh. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where, actually to go a little bit further on my background. Me being from Texas, born and raised, and from Houston. Um, I think that was a profound experience growing up because I've had to deal with a lot of boundary crossings my entire life. If I had been raised in Atlanta, Georgia, and then moved out to the Bay Area where the only black people are in Oakland, or or I had instead lived in, I don't know, West Virginia where there's only white people and I had, still didn't have any identity. Houston is the perfect kind of conglomerate for that because
Right.
you're in Texas, so you're still in a red ass fucking state. But you've got a whole lot of black people in Houston, but then you've got a whole lot of white run areas, and so it allowed for me to understand how to blend in, how to speak different languages, and kind of how to digest some of the things that would be said to me for the rest of my life. I don't expect for anyone to stop saying shit like, you know, you're really pretty for a black girl,
What?
and I'm like,
Nobody tags that like that, do they?
oh yeah, and to me, I'm always like, hey, like, thanks, but how do you know if I'm a girl? Like, like you don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on with me. Or people would say shit like, because I have a mohawk, and I've had a mohawk off and on or whatever, and I've had colorful hair, and people be like, oh, hey, do the carpet matches the drapes? I'm like, carpet, nigga, I got hardwood, like, like, so, I mean, I've had to deal with a lot of kind of crazy shit just being who I am and growing up in Texas and having different sorts of political ideologies pushed onto me and forming my own thoughts and ideas to where I think that's honestly what makes me the most successful in corporate America because it taught me how to swat away the microaggressions, right? Because the aggressions I've had to deal with a lot, and I think we are continuing to move in a positive direction, socially, but
Yeah,
I
but
don't
you're in
think
the Bay Area now. Do you think that because you're in, probably you
no.
probably feel some of that energy. I walk outside of Austin, drive outside of here a little bit, and I'm like, we're making no progress at all.
Don't nah, man. Don't be, don't be faking all that funk. Look, I'll admit, San Francisco, liberal as fuck. But where my company's located, Silicon Valley, I, which one of these CEOs is not white? Like, like it's, and so, and still you have certain microaggressions where, like, I'm not from the Bay Area, and some people are like, "Oh, shit, you're from Oakland." I'm like,
Ah, look
because
at that.
because I'm black. What?
What?
Oh, no way. And that's when I pull out my gat and rob them. But the point being is
Point
that,
being, they started it. They
I
deserved
mean,
it.
they did though. They did. But it the as liberal as I am, I still very much so see the facades of liberalism that doesn't make you question your own biases. Like the housing crisis out here in the Bay Area is astronomically terrible. But the same liberals that are like, we need to build more housing, we need to do all of that, are NIMBYs. They're not in my backyarders. They're like, no, well, not housing here. Why can't it be
Yeah, yeah.
elsewhere? Why can't it be, you know what I mean? And so those same people that think those thoughts will say the same dumb shit to me that gets said to me in Texas. Like, yeah, obviously, like they're not saying shit to me like some dude might say to me in Killeen, Texas. But the sentiment and the lack of understanding and the lack of empathy is still, still the same.
Well, there's a
Um,
big, I mean, there's, and people, again, when you do cultural studies, as an academic area, you get to really hear like hardcore ethnography and deep experience about other cultures, and so you start to realize just how deep it goes, and so you
exactly.
see something like abstract liberalism, which is
Mm,
easy. Like in
yeah,
most Democrats, most people who are liberals are abstract liberals.
absolutely.
Living it, that's a whole new thing. Like the homeless stuff. Like I had a friend who was very liberal and lived in Tampa and was, pro helping the homeless and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But his home was right on the edge of kind of a non-gentrified area. And the homeless started coming using his hose, taking a shower in his taking a shit in his backyard. And all of a sudden he's like, you know what? We got to do something about this homeless problem. Like, yeah, when somebody shits in your backyard, it's no longer possible to be an abstract liberal, is it?
I mean, and you know what? Like it it's funny as fuck. I feel badly for your friend, but I also, it just makes me question um how empathetic politically each side is, right? I'm, like I said, I'm liberal as fuck. I vote for a lot of very liberal things. But growing up in Texas and having friends that are conservative or libertarian, um, I can understand their concerns. And that's something that, if we as a country are going to make any definitive changes, we've got to understand how to address these polarized feelings and still see each other eye to eye, right? Like there are some things, for instance, the whole thing in Texas about the, fetus heartbeat bill, that shit sucks. Like that is abhorrent, especially to, I mean, to really to anybody. Um, but these people who are in support of this legitimately believe that having an abortion is killing a human being, like a legitimate, like it's like if I was like, you know what, Dan, fuck you. I got on the plane or drove my ass over there and was like, man, I'm about to whoop this nigga ass until he is done for. Like, he is done. And I just walked away. That's literally how they see it. And so I challenge us to address their not so much as pro-life, but anti-choice and say, okay, no one wants abortions to happen. I don't wake up every day as a
Right. Yeah,
feminist.
it's literally two issues laid on
Yeah,
top of each other that are both incompatible and both true.
exactly. Like, I don't wake up every day and I'm like, you know what? Today is a fine day to get an abortion. Like, I don't like, we're not having abortion parties or any shit like that. I don't want them to happen to people because I know it can be a traumatic experience. But what we can do, what everyone should agree on, is like, more sex education, more access to contraceptives, all of that. Because kids are kids. They're going to make the mistakes or bad things are going to happen to people. And that should protect them. You don't want a child born that isn't wanted. That's sad. And to me, that's a real abortion. A kid that is born into a world that is not wanted and suffers and is in pain and just is hurt for the rest of their lives, whether it's short or long. That's what should be the most disgusting thing.
Yeah, it's one of those. So I started this new part of the podcast of uncensoring censored stand-ups. So like all
Mm-hmm.
stand-ups, professional stand-ups especially, end up not doing a lot of material because it'll cost them work, and they don't want to get blowback from a live audience. And if you're doing this as a profession, where you're paying your bills and you're for your family with this stuff, they end up cutting out like about 40% of their material most places they go. And
Yeah.
so I have them on. I'm like, I want to hear all your censored bits, your self-censored bits, if you're doing it to yourself. And both the guys have talked about abortion. The first two episodes, abortion is
Really?
one of the topics that's coming up because it's really, like you said, it's one of those issues that just flames up everybody. But like my thing with conservatives, and this is what I do when I do the converting conservative stuff, is you do have to have empathy with it, but you have to actually understand it. It can't be false empathy, which is
Yep.
what everybody wants to do. Like, conservatives, you got to, like, there's a reason why white people, and especially, rural white people and older white people in this country don't want change. It's because it is literally threatening to them. They've
Yeah.
been running the country for 200 years. And now some people are like, hey, why don't you share some of that? And they're like, you know, that doesn't sound as good to me. Just share some
Yeah.
power and all that. I'm not sure I want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it just reminds me of my single days, and I mean, you fucking this dude, he's slanging that dick, he's fire, like but you're not like together with him, right? It's like, but you've got him on retainer, you got him on speed dial. People even do that shit anymore. You Snapchat him, and then someone's like, "Hey, man, can I bang this dude too?" And you're like, "Wait, wait." Wait, hold on. Wait. Just stop.
I'm giving up my total access, my
Yeah,
soul.
I have total access. Like whenever I want it, however I want it. Like, and I have to give that up. Man, look, I'd be raising hell too. Shit. Like, so I mean, it's a lot for them to take into consideration. And also, there are some more nuanced issues. For instance, I fully believe that we have to do something about access to high powered rifles, to uh semi-automatic, automatic rifles, that sort of thing, as far as just access to everybody. At the same time, I love shooting guns. I go to shooting ranges. I practice. We're gonna be closing on a house very soon. I very intend on owning a gun for my house. All of that. I don't think I should have an AR-15. That doesn't make any sense. When it comes to self-defense in a home, all you need is a shotgun. You don't really need, any of that. Now, mind you, yes, you can still have your school shootings with a shotgun, but the range is not the same, and the ability to reload is not the same. And I just I think that people on the right, all they hear from us are being like, oh, just take away all guns. If that was a possibility, cool. Like all guns are gone. That's not gonna happen. That will never happen. I would be shocked.
Right, but
And so
rhetorically, I mean, if you look at rhetoric, it's always everybody always looks at rhetoric as monologue, like it's one sided. Like that in politics, that shit never happens. Like as soon as while you're saying this reasonable thing about, hey, why don't we dial this back a little bit and make it hard to get this? There's 4,000, air horns over here just blaring out. They're stealing your guns. They want your gun. So your message, this reasonable message, just gets drowned in this thunder of, the anti-message. And
yeah.
Democrats don't understand that, and liberals don't understand that. Like your message is coming out at about 1 decibel,
Yep.
and the other ones are coming out at 400 from 8,000 different sources. So if you want to win, guess what? Either increase your sources, increase your volume, or quiet these people down where they're not hearing that other shit all the time and where you can talk to them. But just
Yeah.
talking is not going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, and you brought up a good point. One of the things that I have always held on to since I learned it at UT is social judgment theory, and just a theory that everyone has issues that is either completely, left or right, not politically, but just like I completely believe in this or I completely don't. And then you're somewhere in the middle. A lot of us politically are very much so in the I fully believe this. And it is very hard to move people there because according to social judgment theory, it means you're questioning yourself as a human being for believing in that. And what I beg any listener, anyone, is to really sit there and say, it's okay for me to have been wrong, you know? And I mean, I'm not a parent yet, but one of the things that I hope to do when I am a parent is if I'm wrong, just to go back to my kid and be like, I was wrong. Like, I was wrong with that because I've learned how to do that myself politically, and just in other psychological aspects of myself. Like when I grew up in a Christian household, obviously that
Obviously, Jesus has left the building.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, because all I said to Jesus, I was like, yo, everyone's talking about that you inside them. You ain't been inside me yet. And haven't seen him since. And
He's
so
yeah, he's really got to open up his humor.
yeah, I mean, shit. So look, I was very wrong about when I was younger, my thoughts about the queer community because I was raised with those thoughts, right? Like, oh, being queer, you're going to hell and that sort of thing. It wasn't until middle school that when I met my first queer individuals where I was like, oh, they're pretty much just like me. I don't see what this big deal is. And then there was this final instance that really solidified it for me. I was in the hair shop, the hair salon shop, getting my hair did. And of course, they have all these magazines and stuff. So I was reading a very powerful and touching story about this transgender woman who was a lesbian. And my dad had always told me that if a guy was gay, he was just wanting to be a woman to be with men. Um, and so this story, this really touching story about this uh this person who was a man who loved women but hated penetration because of their penis, realized they were a woman. Like that's who they were on the inside. That's just who they needed to be. So they made the transition and they were a happy lesbian. It really it clicked to me that wait a second, the things that I've been told my life, this doesn't make any sense. Why would anyone ever do this? And so I said, okay, I was wrong. These ideas, I believed I was wrong. And obviously, this is all when I was young, but it built a great foundation for me to say throughout my life, and I've had plenty of these moments, I was wrong. I have not been right, and I will not always be right. And that's okay. Because if you grow as a human being and you learn more things about the world around you, I guarantee you that when the time for the long nap comes, you're going to sit there and say, okay, I made an impact on this world. I'm going to leave. And that's the most important thing.
Yeah, you see, I think I had an advantage growing up because I grew up in Kentucky, and I was surrounded by ignorance. I was the first person in my family to go to college. Nobody around me was intellectual. Nobody read, and so I assumed from very early on that I was wrong, that I didn't know anything. When I went to college, I'm like, yeah, I'm ignorant. Like, you people need to teach me some stuff. And I've kept that like forever. Like, I know some things now about like comedy, I know some rhetoric, but my ignorance far outweighs my education. My education is just localized on these little things. So maybe it's because I grew up, in seething ignorance, that I have always been like, no, I'm sure what I believe is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, ooh, Kentucky. Oh boy. Like, I don't know, man.
Well, my family was pretty passive. Like, they weren't aggressive politically or socially.
Yeah.
They were just living their lives. So I didn't have a lot imprinted on me. I
Yeah.
was Catholic, but it was pretty laid back Catholic. It
Laid back
wasn't.
Catholic. That
Yeah.
seems like an oxymoron.
Well, it was Kentucky. I mean, Baptists were the ones that were hardcore. The Catholics that got to Kentucky are just like, nah, we're gonna play football and drink beer. So it was pretty laid back. But I've always had that sense of like, even I don't have imposter syndrome. Like, when I know something or I know I'm good at it, I'm fine with it. But I have ignorance awareness for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that comes with just being from the South. Like,
But
what do you
so many of the ignorant don't have it. They're ignorant of their own ignorance.
Yeah. Well, God, can you blame if they never leave? I mean, I always
I
make
just don't understand valorizing it. I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
okay, yeah, you have a thought. I get it. Congratulations. You haven't checked that thought anywhere. So why do you believe it so strongly? You need to check your thought, baby. That is
Yeah,
not.
but let me ask you this though. So, if you made the single batch bourbon by yourself, you did this and you've been drinking it, and you mind you still making it, it tastes great, you start sampling it to some of your friends and they're like, this shit's kind of fire. And then you bring it to the big city and people are like, nigga, this shit is whack. Like, and they really start dogging on it. You can start to get defensive. You're like, wait a second. Nobody gives a fuck about you, your daddy, your mama. And then you dip out and you go back to your own little small town and your own little friend group and your own little single small
Yeah,
batch that you're
yeah.
making. You say, I'm fine with it. I'm good with it. That's how these people think.
No, that is a good simile, metaphor, comparison.
Whichever.
I like it.
Thank
I
you.
like
Thank
it.
you. I
It's
mean,
the
I try to
whiskey
be
explanation.
I try to be understanding because at the end of the day, look, I don't know what's gonna happen to me after, after I finally die from orgasm, which I'm really hoping is the way I go out.
Hey, there, come on. That's got to be in the top 5
I
ways
mean,
of
right? Like, come
leaving the
on.
planet.
Like throw me a bone here too, Jesus or Buddha or whatever the fuck. But there's a theory of reincarnation where it's like, okay, you're actually gonna be living every human being's life that's ever existed before you reach nirvana, right? And so I try and really be intuitive and understand that, like, when people are scared, they're scared. Whatever the foundation of those fears are is, I don't have anything to do with it. For instance, my fiance is scared as fuck of raccoons. I think they're cute as fuck. Like, I try not to laugh at him when he sees a raccoon and he's like,
How
I'm out.
often does he see a raccoon? Does this
I
this
mean,
like Fleabag? They're following him around like the foxes.
Well, so I don't know if you know this, but he's, for him being from Ireland, right? There's no raccoons in Ireland. And so the very first time he saw a raccoon, he saw multiple raccoons because they were slinking out of bushes where he was standing and like waiting for like a ride. And you know how they kind of creep on all
Oh, they're
fours?
weird. Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of creep on all fours. He was like, nah, fuck that. I think he just left. I can't remember what he did, but he did not wait for that Uber. He was like, nah. He probably went to go get a drink, not because he's Irish, but because he's my fiance.
Well, as long as his cultural addictions flow nicely into your all's family life, then it's all good.
Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where, you know, we just got to designate who's hungover what day, right? And who's dealing with the kids. You know what I mean? Because we can get drunk and out together, but when we do have kids, it's like, okay, I'll be hungover Saturday morning. So you take care of the kids Saturday morning, and then you can be hungover Sunday morning, and I'll take care of the kids Sunday morning. We'll just trade off. It'll be fine.
Fear of raccoons. Yeah, I grew up in Kentucky. You can't have a fear of raccoons, like or
I think
possums
it's
or
so cute.
squirrels.
And possums. I'm a huge fan of like pretty much all animals except for primates. I know humans are included in that. Humans are okay. But primates in general kind of fuck me up. I don't know. I feel like
Animals are weird. Like you ever just go, oh, wait a minute, this animal does
yeah,
what?
yeah. There's three in my house, including my fiance, the dog and the cat over here. The dog is over here fucking sleeping, and he's mad at me because I put a cone on his head because he ripped his little toe pad off or whatever and I had to treat it. But he's all pissed off at me, like, oh, how dare you want to take care of me, mom? Fuck you. And the cat, she's just kind of like, fuck you in general. So it's like, why am I doing this? Why do I keep them around? Like, they're weird as fuck.
They are weird. It's weird that we just have, oh yeah, I'm gonna let this animal live in my house. You wouldn't put a kangaroo in there,
No.
right? There's no other animal. Like, what else would you put in your house?
Oh,
Like
I
snakes
mean,
make no sense to me at all. It's like if it gets out of his cage and I want to kill it, that's not a pet. That's a threat.
okay. But wait, isn't that a spouse? Like, if you want to kill it, they're a threat at any point in time.
Hey, I'm at the age where like almost everybody I know has gone through their marriage or their two marriages, and now they're looking out going, you know what? I don't think I want that. I don't
Yeah.
want that genre in my life.
No, I don't want this pet. I don't want this animal. They're an animal. We're all animals. I don't want this other animal in my house who's just as smart as me, who eats the same kind of food. And when I tell them to sit, I mean they do it because we're role playing. But the point is that like they'll get you back. No, I
Yeah,
mean
they're tricky.
animals are crazy. But if I could have one domesticated animal that could like do whatever I wanted and they're wild right now, it'd be a Wolverine, dude. Wolverines are big as fuck and they're fierce as fuck. Could you imagine? I'm like walking down the street with the Wolverine. The Wolverine's got a chain on. I've got a chain on, and we're just like strolling through the hood. Like, I'm not a hood at all, but I try to be.
I like it. Wolverines. Yeah.
Right? What about you? Any wild animal?
What I always wanted was for somebody to genetically shrink down like elephants and hippos and rhinos, like to like hamster size. Like
Yes.
how cool would that be? Or
Oh
even
my
like
god.
Chihuahua size. Having like a
Yes.
Chihuahua size elephant just
Yes.
walking around.
Oh, 100%. Okay. What about, yeah, Chihuahua sized elephant? Yes. Rhinos, that might be too dangerous.
They got to go
Oh,
small, and
yeah,
they got
but
a
if
round
but
a
if they
round
were
horn. They
if
got a
they were
round. They got to
Chihuahua
evolve to a round
size,
horn.
yeah, yeah. Or giraffes. Oh my god,
Oh,
so
come on.
cute, so
How cool.
cute. Like
The whole
man.
African savannah, if
Oh,
you just shrink it
completely,
down, be cute as
completely.
shit.
Well, except for lions, because if they were just Chihuahua size, it would just be an
That'd be
angrier
too
cat.
much. Well, your cats, I mean, you've noticed like how small we've shrunk cats because they're just at the level where like when they come up to you and they feel you, like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
They're testing your muscle strength. It's like, nah, the bitch could still take me. I'm not soon though. Soon. She gets older.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, she plays all cute with me and she likes to snuggle and everything. But if I was bite sized, if I was like only like 4 or 5 inches tall, she'd kill the shit out of me. And she wouldn't even think twice about it.
If they broke 30 pounds consistently, it's like the bats down here in Austin always bugs me. It's like, oh, let's go
Yo,
see the bats. Well, it's because the bats are about this big. If they
yes.
were this big, nobody'd be down there looking at the bats. They'd be down there with shotguns. We got to get rid of these bats. These things
It
are
was so weird. Like I lived in Austin for
terrifying.
7 years and I never was like, I want to go see these flying mammals that may or may not shit on me. If I want to get shit on, I can pay somebody for that.
Well, they all fly out that way, so you're not gonna get shit on. My thing was like I always wanted to see them turn around once, like once a year. The bats turn and they just come back at the humans on the bridge and just like "Rah," and just attack. And you never know what night it's gonna be.
Well, it's Austin. So, with our hippie asses in Austin, no one would fight back. They would just be like, I'm dying for the
Oh,
good of humanity.
and the bats, like it takes, I don't know, like when you go down there, it'll take like 2 hours for all of them to go. There's 3 million bats. I'm like, what are the last bats doing? Just sitting back there going, again, getting the
Yeah.
bat snooze, coming out in a little bat wheelchair. It's like, shit, this is
Well,
not an accessible bridge.
it's like traffic on the one Mopac. They're just all the way in the back. They just happen to live all the way north and trying to get downtown. Like, man, fuck. Like these bugs don't even taste that good. What the fuck am I doing?
You miss Austin?
Oh yeah, I do. I really do miss Austin. I love the Bay Area. I love everything that it offers. The climate is pretty tight. I mean, except for the wildfires, but I mean, if I'm gonna die of cancer, that'll probably be it.
From the
Um,
fires?
oh yeah, dude, the wildfires, shit,
They give you cancer?
dude, they burned so much that like houses and smog and stuff that goes into the air last year when we were experiencing those wildfires, they were like 3 days straight where we woke up and the entire sky was orange. That's how bad it was. And so there's so much pollutants in the air. It's just, yeah, I mean they're burning through the forest, but they're like tearing through all these neighborhoods and stuff. That it's like a concern for the people who live out here long term, all of the chemicals that we're just kind of ingesting, let alone the fact that, I mean, the smog normally being here. So, I love it out here. I love the multiculturalism that I don't think you necessarily get in Austin. The public transit out here is pretty fire, as long as you don't mind, dudes taking a shit on the train. You get used to it. And no,
That
I mean,
statement right there. It's just got taking a shit on the
yeah,
train.
I mean, you just move to the next train. It's like, like the next little cart. That's Bart, man. That's Bart. Any listeners out there that know what Bart is, they'll know. Like yeah. I remember they sent a survey out right when, I think towards the beginning of this year, as people started really signing up for more vaccines and stuff, which I'm fully vaccinated. Yay.
Yay.
And Bart sent out a survey and they were like, so how did you like Bart before the pandemic? Did you ride Bart during the pandemic? And what would make you ride Bart again? I was like, man, as far as I'm concerned, Bart caused the pandemic. Like all the fucking germs and disease on that shit. Like, I'm gonna catch COVID-20 in that bitch. I was like, if y'all don't,
Yeah,
do something about
COVID's like down the New York City subways going, yeah,
yeah,
get it on.
like it's no, like I mean, I know realistically that it's kind of out of the hands of people who run BART, because it's as bad of a problem as homelessness. It's like systemic, right? It's like they can only do so much with the amount of funds that they're allotted. But I'm just glad that we have the kind of public transit out here that just isn't that doesn't exist in Texas, which causes kind of a, self-fulfilling prophecy of drinking and driving in Texas. Like, I mean,
Well, you got to
I
drink. You're in Texas,
yeah,
so you got to
yeah,
drive. So
yeah.
there
I
you go.
mean, I've told this to many friends out here that it is kind of unspoken, the drinking and driving culture in Texas. Like it's kind of, it is what it is because there's no real alternative, and I'm not saying I condone it, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, I'm perfect either. It's just the fact of the matter is that there's just no reliable public transit that is consistent in Texas. And I know that is pretty much due to, the oil companies. That's what Texas is. But it's dangerous. It's dangerous not having that reliability. You remember when I don't know if y'all voted on this again, but like 4 or 5 years ago or something, we were voting on extending the rail from North Austin to down to South Austin,
Mhm.
and extending even the hours, and I voted and I was like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna happen. And they shot that shit down. I was like, man, what the hell? It's like,
It
what is
seems like
that?
maybe they did some of that. I remember them doing some construction a couple of years ago.
Hmm.
Um, but just again, it's just sort of throwing a little bit of yeah at them. They don't really ever, change it. Um, but
No.
I don't know. I miss California. I miss like I would move back to LA, but I'm not going to be working in TV again. So I don't.
Mm.
I don't really want to work for a corporation. So I don't know if I can make the money to be comfortable in California again. But
Yeah, look, honestly, I'll tell this to anybody, man. Stay out unless you know for sure that whatever you secure out here is going to be tight, cuz I mean, it's just crazy. And I mean, you would think it'd be, I don't know, maybe the cost of living had gotten less because of the pandemic. Nah,
no,
nothing. That has not changed at all. And it's like okay, well, yeah, no wonder that homelessness is a problem in California. Like it's just,
yeah,
like why is it that everything is so expensive? Like it just, to me, it's just kind of baffling in the fact that we have some of the richest people living out here, and we aren't able to tax them or their businesses sufficiently to address some of our, I mean, our wellness issues. Homelessness is a wellness problem. It's not a, it's not a lack of work ethic or shit like that. I mean, man, bad things could befall me and my fiance or my pets at any point in
your
time, and it
pets
could be
could go
consistent.
homeless at
Bad luck,
any
and I'd be
time.
homeless. And I mean, yeah, Dan, you probably be like, Devonya deserved it, and I did, but most people don't. Like, that's,
Nobody
I mean, it's
deserves it. Like
sad.
you shouldn't live in a country like a culture that when people drop, and everybody drops for different reasons. It can happen to almost anybody unless you've got wealth to keep you from dropping. You have to deal with that in a culture. Every culture has it. So you have to have ways of dealing with it. And capitalism is always just like, yeah, I'm not going to deal with that. I don't take it easy. You go figure that
Yeah.
out. But it's just an immature way of doing a government in a country.
Oh,
You know?
100%. And I won't get into much of the red scare stuff, but the perceptions of communism and socialism have been wrecked in this country, and that's, our own country's propaganda. But understandably, there are countries now who are running under those ideals, and things have failed as well. And there is no, it doesn't have to be either or. It doesn't have to be
Yeah,
strict
it's yeah,
capitalism. It doesn't have to be communism.
socialism and democracy mix and capitalism mix
Yeah,
fine if you are careful and considered and do it right.
exactly. And that's what I try to communicate to, some people that are on the right. It's like, you've got all sorts of socialist ideas, or socialist programs now. Like, I don't have to pay anybody to stop my house from being on fire. Like, like I don't have to, I don't have to hire anyone to beat up a black man. I just call the cops. Like, it's free. Like, this is just
Bam, take that. There you go. Socialist.
Yeah,
know,
good, honest socialism. It's like, who can I, like, instead of hiring a hitman or hiring somebody to fuck up the niggas on the corner, just call the police. They're definitely gonna shoot people for free. Like, it's
yeah, that's a great angle.
so it's there's a lot of things that we can do, and it doesn't there can be a middle person. Like, if you want to buy private health insurance, go ahead. Why the fuck does that have to be the only option, or working with a certain company to get private health insurance? Like, for, like, to me, I like where I'm at with my company. I'm cool with it and all of that, but it should not scare me to think about leaving and being like, I will not have health insurance. Like, because I could be walking down the street and get attacked by, I don't know, a
A
fucking
Wolverine.
yeah. Or a mountain lion. Yo, there's like mountain lions in our neighborhoods. And I don't know if that's just a California thing or or a neighborhood thing, but there's like a lot of mountain
They're
lions out here.
liberal mountain
Yeah,
lions.
yeah, the
They're
fucking
hunting
liberal
liberals. That's what they
mountain
eat.
lions. We fuel them. We fuel them with all of our rainbows and acceptance.
All right, man. Well, this has been super fun. I really appreciate you jumping on in your
Hey,
Friday evening and hanging out a little bit.
absolutely, man. I enjoyed this. It's always so much fun to talk to you, and just, be a part of your life, because you're kick ass and you're awesome. And yeah, this definitely made my week.
Well, cool. You killed it. So much fun. You got ideas in there. You got information. You got jokes. Come on. How could you not like that? That's
You
Devonya
know that.
Batiste, everybody, right there. Hey,
Thank you.
thanks for hanging out. Uh, thanks everybody for coming to the Rhetoric Warriors. Get out there and persuade some people. They always need it.